a long way, but we still have a long way to go. When we think about the wage gap, that tends to be the most obvious measurement of how far have we in fact come. Well, in 1978 in Canada, equal pay legislation was enacted. And the Statistics Canada's numbers say that in 1978, women were making 55 cents to every dollar that their male counterpart was making. 55 cents. 15 years later, after this legislation has been enacted, we have made great strides. We have come so far, in fact, that 15 years later, we are now making a whopping 70 cents, 70 cents, compared to our male counterpart. 30 years later, after legislation has all but eliminated the wage gap, or so that's what's supposed to happen, women are making a whopping, you ready? 71 cents compared to their male counterpart. So what does that tell us, other than that we still have a problem?
Long way to go.
Well, what it tells us is we do have a long way to go, Elizabeth, you're right. But it also tells us that half of the problem is above the line, and half of the problem is below the line. So we've legislated out any overt discrimination against women. But there still is proof in the numbers that says we're still not quite where we need to be. So that means that a lot of the discrimination has gone underground. And as a woman in an organization, what we need to understand is that there are some influences at play that we need to be aware of if we want to get promoted and we want to advance our careers. The first one is that there is a lot of unconscious bias still out there. Now, I really honestly do believe that when it comes to biases, that people don't discriminate on purpose. We don't wake up in the morning and plan to go out and discriminate against any group of people, for the most part. Now, maybe there are some people on the planet who are like that, but when it comes to gender discrimination, I think that societally we're at a place where we aren't consciously going out and saying, a woman can't do that and a woman can't do this just because she's a woman. We're not doing it intentionally. But there is still a lot of bias that happens. And it happens because we have been raised and taught by society and have been under the influence, if you will, of many things that we've been taught over the years, and values and things that we've known. And in North America, we're in a lot better position than, many of the women that we hear about in the news overseas. These biases that we have are shortcuts for our brain to make sense of the world. The way we categorize things, the way we take all of this information and we make sense of the world, they have become our biases. And so what we think is neither right nor wrong necessarily. When it becomes wrong is when we make decisions about somebody because of the way they look, because of the way they speak, because of the kind of job they have, because of the things that they do. And when we make assumptions about their competence or about their ability to be successful, that's when it becomes wrong. And that's what I, in my lifetime, hope to be able to raise awareness of so that we can talk about it and keep the conversation going so that we know that that's what we're doing. Because once we know that that's what we're doing, then we tend to change our behaviors, if not automatically, then very, very quickly afterwards. As far as this double bind is concerned, in the book I have a whole list of things where women are particularly in precarious situations where the double bind hits. But one of them that I talk about is any emotional display. If you've ever been in a meeting where, a man pounds his fists on the table and he raises his voice, he's heralded as this great and powerful, mighty leader. If a woman pounds her fists on the table and raises her voice, she's unstable. If a man sheds a tear, He's sensitive. If a woman sheds a tear, she's crazy.
She's crazy.
Or something.
Yeah.
Hormonal. Things are happening that, and we're being judged for our behaviors in ways that we may not even realize it. So be aware of the double bind. We are in this situation where we're darned if we do and we're darned if we don't. But being aware that there's that potential difference in how we're being judged compared to our male counterparts means that we have the capability to navigate those situations much more successfully than if we don't even understand or know that they're happening. Now, what is this backlash all about? Well, I came from the generation that gave feminism really a bad name. And if you remember the stories, or even if you were there and remember some of the things that happened as the women who came before us were battling for our rights just to be included in the category of people, that's what was required. But that's not what feminism is today. Feminism today is about fighting for the rights or advocating for the equal rights for women and men. But what we need to understand is that backlash has caused a lot of, let's call it bad blood. And so the people inside your organization may have preconceived notions around what equality for women really means. Because I will say that I believe that what is going on out there, men believe that equality for women is a loss for men. But equality for men is not a loss for women. So historically, the men have led all kinds of organizations, all kinds of collections of people. The men have been in charge. And then one day, along come the women who say, wait a second, we want to be leaders too. We think we have what it takes. And the women start to rise up. And all of the things around them start to change. Now, do the men sit there and think, wow, a woman is also trying to get my job. What a fabulous opportunity for me to enhance my skills. Competition is healthy. Is that what they're saying? No, that is not what they're saying. They're saying that woman is trying to steal my job, just like we cried the same blues when we thought computers were going to take away all of our jobs. It's the same thing. Because the men, imagine being a man 40, 30, 50 years ago. Your wife going out to work meant that the house was dirty, the kids were dirty, and dinner was not on the table when you got home from work. Men saw that as a loss. Now again, that's an extreme example, but take that thinking, take that notion, take that paradigm to a general statement to say, with so many women coming into the workforce, many men still see it as women taking their jobs, because no longer is being good enough. Because a very talented woman, who according to studies in Switzerland is 2.5 times better than you, is coming up on your heels wanting your job. So we have this backlash that we have to fight against, and it's in the attitudes of many, many people, including some of the women that are out there. You know, oftentimes I'm asked the question, well, you know, do people like to work better for a woman leader or a man leader? And I have to admit that a lot of times the answer is women would rather work for a man. Because as a woman, historically, has been fighting and clawing her way up to the top, maybe that one position that's available, any other women coming up in that generation were seen as competition for that only one job, which is very different than what we have today, where we see women at the top who are opening their arms and saying there's room for everybody. Let the best person win when it comes to the job. So know that we're up against some backlash. Know that we are facing this double bind, and know that these biases are absolutely at the unconscious level, but they are happening.